The glass doors of the Abuja Mall slid open with a soft whisper. Shoppers moved like a slow river, bright bags, loud laughter, perfume in the air. Johnson stood by his modest black sedan, holding the car key like it weighed a ton. He had just parked. He had just smiled at his wife. Then he heard her voice. "Who is he to you?" A man in a shiny new SUV asked, stepping down with the confidence of someone who believed the world was his. Amara fixed her scarf, lifted her chin, and said in a clear, cold voice that cut through the noise, "He's my driver." The word hit Johnson like a slap. Driver. His wife said it like it was nothing. The man's smile grew. "Driver? Good. Then you can talk to me." Johnson's fingers tightened on the key. He didn't call out. He didn't move. He looked at Amara, his wife of 7 days, watching a stranger the way people watch fireworks. Bright eyes, open mouth, like a dream had just walked toward her, wearing a suit. "I can take you out sometimes." The man added softly, "You deserve better." Amara didn't even glance back at Johnson. "Yes," she said. "I would like that." The man opened the passenger door. Amara slid into the SUV like a queen. The door closed with a deep, sure sound. The SUV pulled away, smooth as water. For 2 breaths, Johnson did not move. Then he lifted his head, and something in his quiet eyes turned to iron. 2 weeks earlier, at 35, Johnson Anderson had everything people posted about. He was the silent billionaire CEO of Jontech, the tech company behind apps and tools used across Africa. Clean code, smart systems, ideas that worked. But Johnson did not chase cameras. He did not love noise. People called him the shadow in the boardroom. He let results speak. What no one saw was the emptiness he carried home. Every woman he had dated in the last 3 years loved the picture, not the person. They loved the tables at eco hotels, the cool air of private lounges, the black cards that never blinked at prices. They loved the pride of saying, "I'm with the billionaire CEO," not the quiet man who loved plantain and eggs at night, who fixed old laptops for fun, who laughed at jokes slowly and fully. He had learned to hear the difference between "I love you" and "I love it." One morning, before the sun got hot, he woke up and chose a different road. He drove alone from Lagos to Abuja in a simple car with no escort. He wore a plain shirt. On the second ring, manager Andrew of the Garki branch picked up. "Good morning, sir." "Andrew," Johnson said in his steady voice, "I am coming to your branch today." "I won't be, Johnson. I will be new junior staff. Put me in computer maintenance. No one must know." Andrew's breath caught. "Sir, that is bold." "It is simple," Johnson replied. "If someone loves me when they think I am small, then I will know." When he walked into the branch that afternoon, the office felt different. The glass walls, the bright logo, the hum of servers. He had designed this place on a whiteboard years ago. Now he stood in it as a stranger. "New guy," someone said without looking up. "Tech support?" "Yes," Johnson answered. "Good," another voice muttered. "There's a dusty desktop in the store. Carry it." A finger pointed at a pile of wires like a nest. The first week cut him like sand under a nail. Some female staff rolled their eyes when he asked to pass. One laughed at his shoes, plain black, neat, nothing loud. "Not my class," she whispered to her friend, loud enough to be heard. He kept fixing systems. He kept his voice kind. He learned names, smiled when no one smiled back, and left the office at night with a tired back and a steady heart. The second week, the Abuja sky was the color of blue soap. As he locked the office door, he saw her at the gate. Amara. She was the new software engineer everyone said was brilliant. Dark skin that caught the light. A careful way of speaking, like she was measuring words. A brown handbag hugged to her side. She looked left and right, unsure, like the city roads were rivers. "Good evening," Johnson said. She turned. "Good evening. Do you need a ride?" "I pass the outskirts." Her smile came slow, like dawn. "You pass Kpayegi?" "I do." She hesitated for one heartbeat. Then she nodded. "Thank you." The car smelled of clean seats and palm soap. They talked about little things. Where to get the best suya. Why Abuja roads felt like songs long and steady. How code could be neat, like a freshly swept room. "What do you do exactly?" Amara asked at a red light. "Junior staff," he said. "Computer maintenance. I help the manager's office." She looked at his hands on the wheel. "You're gentle with the car." He laughed quietly. Cars tell the truth if you listen. After that day, the rides became normal. He didn't push. She didn't ask for too much. Dinner happened by accident. Let's try that stew place by the roundabout. And late-night calls started with, "Did you sleep?" and ended with sleepy laughs. Johnson watched for the small signs, the way she listened when he spoke, the way she didn't flinch when he said his apartment was simple. He saw green lights, or he thought he did. One night, he dropped her at her gate and sat still. The moon was a silver coin. "Amara," he said, surprising himself, "marry me." The world paused. She stared at him. Then, slowly, she nodded. "Yes," she whispered. They married a week later. No fireworks, no magazine. A quiet court registry, 2 witnesses, and a soft "I do." He gave her a gold band that caught light without shouting. She moved into his 1-bedroom at the edge of the city tiled floor. Small balcony, a plant by the window that leaned toward the sun. He cooked beans with fried fish the first night and smiled like a boy when she said it tasted good. But the second morning, the paint looked too plain to her. The third day, the fan felt too slow. By the 5th, the silence in the room sounded like a problem to be fixed. Amara stared at the small wardrobe and saw a small life. She didn't say it to his face. She smiled when he looked at her and turned away when he wasn't looking. She scrolled past pictures of big houses and big rings and big cars on her phone and felt something hot and sharp in her chest. She started to hate herself for saying yes too fast. She started to hate the small things, thin curtains, simple plates, the bus sounds outside. Johnson saw the change, the way a careful driver feels a stone under the tire. He washed the plates. He ironed her work shirt. He told a joke about a stubborn printer, and she smiled with only half her mouth. Saturday came like a soft bell. "Let's shop," he said. "We need sugar and rice." They drove to the mall. He parked far from the entrance because he liked to walk. "I'll carry the bags," he said, lifting one from the back seat. "You go ahead. I'll lock up." Amara stepped out. Her face looked brighter under the sun. A new SUV slid into the front row with a quiet purr. The door opened and a tall man climbed out, wearing a dark suit that fit like it was made story by story for him. He looked at Amara the way people look at a surprise they like. "Excuse me," he said. "Are you new in the city?" She laughed lightly. "Kind of." "Who brought you?" he asked, eyes flicking toward the modest car. Amara looked back. Johnson stood there, still turned toward the car, key in hand, ready to lock the door. For a breath, their eyes met. He smiled, a small, true smile he used when he wanted her to remember he was trying. She turned away. "He's my driver," she said. The man's face opened with pleasure. "Driver? That makes it easy. Can I take you for lunch sometime? You look like someone who should not be walking into a mall alone." The world pressed in around Johnson, the shine of cars, chatter of people, the shape of Amara's answer forming before she spoke it. "Yes," she said. "Now?" the man asked softly. Amara glanced at her reflection in the SUV's window. Her hand touched her hair. "Now," she said. The man opened the door. She slid in. The leather seats swallowed her like a promise. The SUV pulled away, slow and proud. Johnson didn't shout. He didn't chase. He stood very still. The key felt cold and hard in his palm. A rush of memories flashed like quick edits in a movie. The quiet wedding, beans with fried fish, her smile on the first night, the way she had started looking at the wall instead of him. Then the SUV turned at the exit, and in that brief turn, the man's face tilted into full light. Recognition struck like a flash. David Obinna, senior staff, top performer. The same David who had once pitched a new security protocol in Lagos and shook Johnson's hand without knowing he was the CEO. Johnson's jaw tightened. He unlocked the car, slid into the seat, and started the engine. The hum rose steady, like a calm drum. He pulled out of the parking lot and kept a soft distance, eyes fixed on the taillights of the SUV as it glided down the wide Abuja road. At the first red light, the SUV slowed. Johnson's phone buzzed on the seat. Manager Andrew's name pulsed on the screen. He didn't pick up. He watched the SUV's indicator blink right, into a gated estate he knew very well. He felt the air in his chest turn thin. The gateman waved the SUV in with 2 fingers and a grin. Johnson rolled forward, heart steady, mind sharp, and whispered to himself, "Let the truth finish what it started." He turned his wheel toward the estate, and the gateman stepped into his lane, hand up, eyes suspicious, lips forming the words no one wants to hear at a closed gate. "Stop! Who are you looking for?" The gateman's hand cut through the air like a blade. "Stop! Who are you looking for?" Johnson's car slowed to silence. The iron bars of the estate stood tall, painted black, polished, unshakable. Behind them, neat streets stretched inward, lined with houses that cost more than some banks. The red SUV had already disappeared inside, swallowed whole. Johnson looked at the gateman, a young man in faded uniform with a whistle dangling from his neck. His chest rose like he owned the road. "I'm visiting someone," Johnson said calmly, his voice even. "Name?" The gateman barked, chewing his words. "David O'Binner." The guard squinted, his tone softened. "Mr. David? Why didn't you say?" "Park aside. I'll call him." Johnson nodded. His fingers tapped the steering wheel. "No need to call. He's expecting me." The guard hesitated, then stepped aside, waving him in. The bars slid open slowly, groaning like they didn't want secrets to escape. Johnson drove in. Inside the estate, Abuja felt different. The street lamps stood taller. The grass wore a brighter shade of green. Children rode bicycles with helmets and laughter. Every gate was electric, every wall higher than the last. Johnson followed the SUV's shadow until it stopped in front of a cream duplex, with pillars tall enough to touch pride. The SUV's engine cut off. The door opened. Amara stepped out. She adjusted her scarf, her smile wider than any smile she had given Johnson since their wedding. Her laughter, soft and girlish, floated across the driveway. David stepped around the car, his hand brushing hers casually, like it was already his right. They both walked toward the front door. Johnson parked quietly across the street. He watched. His chest burned, but his face stayed still, calm like water holding fire at the bottom. He waited. Minutes stretched like rope. Then the front door opened again. Amara came out laughing, holding a bottle of wine. While David leaned on the doorway, his tie loosened. Johnson stepped out of his car. His shoes crunched the gravel. "Amara." Her laughter stopped like glass breaking. She froze. The bottle nearly slipped from her hand. David's smile melted into confusion. "Johnson?" Amara whispered, her voice trembling between fear and anger. "What are you doing here?" Johnson didn't answer. He looked at her. Really looked. Her face was painted with excitement, not guilt. She wasn't ashamed, she was annoyed he had followed. "Go home," she snapped suddenly, her voice rising. "Go back to your small life. I told you I can't do this anymore. You're not my class." The words hung heavy in the warm night air. David straightened, his eyes darting from Amara to Johnson. Something clicked in his mind. The quiet strength in Johnson's eyes, the way he didn't flinch, the weight of his presence. He swallowed. "Amara." David's voice was slow, careful. "Do you know who this man is?" She waved him off, still burning. "Yes, my driver, my mistake of a husband. Nothing more." David stepped forward. His face had turned pale, his confidence shaken. "No, you don't understand. He is Johnson Anderson, the billionaire CEO of John Tech. My boss." Amara's mouth dropped open. The wine bottle slipped from her hand, shattering into red shards at her feet. Her knees buckled. She grabbed David's arm, eyes wild. "What? What did you say?" David didn't look at her. His eyes stayed locked on Johnson, steady but nervous, like a junior staff standing before judgment. "Sir," he said softly, almost respectfully, "I didn't know she was your wife." Johnson's lips curved, not in a smile, not in anger, but something colder. "Now you know," Amara gasped, clutching her chest as if the truth itself had struck her. She dropped to her knees on the driveway, gravel biting her skin. Tears streamed, mixing with the dust. "Johnson, please," she begged. "I didn't know. I didn't mean it. Take me back. Forgive me. I'll change. Please." Neighbors peeked from their balconies. Lights flicked on. Whispers floated like smoke in the estate air. Johnson looked down at her, his shadow stretching long under the street lamp. For a moment, silence wrapped the scene. Then he said in a low, final tone, "No, Amara, you never loved me." He turned, walked back to his car, and closed the door with quiet finality. The engine purred. Amara screamed his name. Her hands clawed the ground, desperate. But Johnson drove away into the night, headlights fading into the wide Abuja road. Back at the branch the next day, the whispers had already started. Someone had seen, someone had told, and the story spread faster than emails. Amara walked in with red eyes, her head low. No one spoke to her. The silence was sharper than insults. In the manager's office, Andrew looked at Johnson. "Sir, do you want me to terminate her contract?" Johnson's answer was calm, cutting. "No, she is qualified. Let her stay. My love life is not her job description." Andrew nodded, silent, but inside Johnson's chest, a question dug deep like a thorn. Would he ever find true love? He closed his laptop, packed his bag, and whispered to himself, "Maybe Lagos will have the answer." The night bus to Lagos cut through the highway like a slow knife. Johnson sat by the window in his simple shirt, the glow of his phone lighting his face. He had refused the private jet, refused the convoy. He wanted silence, space to think. Outside, trees rushed past. Inside, passengers shifted in their seats, murmurs mixing with snores. But Johnson's mind was louder than any road noise. "She called me her driver," the words replayed again and again. Not because of the insult, he had heard worse, but because for 1 second, he believed Amara might have been different. He thought of the beans he cooked for her, the balcony plant leaning toward the sun, the quiet "yes" she whispered when he asked her to marry him. Was all of that nothing, or had it been real for only a moment? By the time the bus rolled into Lagos at dawn, his heart had hardened. Abuja had given him answers he did not ask for. Now, he told himself, Lagos would give him something else. 1 week later, Eco Hotel, Lagos, the grand conference hall buzzed with voices. Screens glowed with graphs. Doctors and investors walked in crisp suits, their tags swinging like medals. The topic was health tech, bridging medicine and technology across Africa. Johnson entered quietly, his navy blue suit sharp but not loud. He was not here as the CEO. He was here as an observer, another name tag in the crowd. That was when he saw her. She stood near the podium, a slender woman in a white coat, her stethoscope hanging casually like a crown she had forgotten she wore. Her skin glowed under the lights. Her smile was calm but strong, and her voice carried the room as she explained how technology could reduce delays in rural hospitals. Her name tag read, Dr. Monica Adeyemi. Johnson found himself listening, really listening, not as a CEO analyzing an idea, but as a man hearing sincerity in every word. After her session, he walked up as others clapped. She turned, meeting his eyes. "Good presentation," Johnson said, his voice low but steady. "Thank you." Her smile reached her eyes. "You work in tech?" He paused, choosing carefully. "Yes, I do." "Then you understand what I was saying," she said, excitement spilling into her tone. "Imagine if every rural clinic had access to instant data. If doctors could predict crises before they happened, lives would be saved." Her passion lit her face. It wasn't about money. It wasn't about fame. It was about people. Johnson nodded, and for the first time in months, he felt warmth spread in his chest. They ended up sitting at a small table during the lunch break. She spoke about her work at Lagos General, about late nights in crowded wards, about how she still made time to visit her grandmother in Ibadan on weekends. And Johnson's silent billionaire, master of boardrooms, found himself telling her about beans and fried fish, about his small plant by the balcony, about how simple things mattered more than people thought. She laughed. "You sound different from most men I've met in Lagos." "Different good or different bad?" he asked. "Different. Refreshing." The words lingered like music. Over the next 2 weeks, their meetings grew natural. Coffee after shifts, walks near Marina when the city cooled at night. Monica didn't ask for his net worth. She asked what made him laugh. She didn't care about company cars. She cared about his dreams, his fears, and Johnson watched, cautious but hopeful, testing each moment against his scars. One night, as they sat by the lagoon, the city lights reflecting on the water, Monica leaned closer. "You don't talk much about your past. Why?" Johnson stared at the ripples. "Because sometimes the past is heavy." She looked at him with those clear eyes that seemed to see deeper than the surface. "Then let me help you carry it." Those words cracked something open in him. Back in Abuja, Amara was sinking. She came to work each day with swollen eyes. The colleagues she once bragged before now looked at her with pity, some with disgust. David had pulled away completely. He avoided her at the office, his respect for Johnson greater than any attraction he once felt. One evening, she called Johnson. Her voice trembled. "Please, Johnson, can we talk? Just once. I need to explain. I'm sorry." He listened in silence. Then he said, "Amara, you chose, and you showed me the truth. I don't hate you, but there is no space left for us." The line went dead. Amara dropped her phone and sank to the floor, tears streaming. For the first time, she realized the cost of greed. 2 months later, Lagos came alive in a way it hadn't in years. Social media buzzed, headlines screamed. Silent billionaire CEO Johnson Anderson marries Lagos doctor in star-studded wedding. The city shook with it. Celebrities, governors, ministers, foreign investors all gathered at the Echo Convention Center. Cameras flashed, violins played, and in the center, Monica walked down the aisle, glowing like dawn, while Johnson waited with steady eyes that finally looked at peace. As the priest declared them husband and wife, applause thundered through the hall. Amara watched from her small apartment in Abuja, her face pale, tears sliding down her cheeks as the live broadcast showed the man she once dismissed as a driver now celebrated as a king. She pressed her palms to her face and whispered through sobs, "I destroyed myself." 1 year later, in a bright Lagos hospital room, Johnson cradled a tiny baby girl wrapped in pink. Monica leaned against the pillows, tired but smiling. "What name?" she whispered. "Juliana," Johnson said softly, kissing the baby's forehead. "Her name will be Juliana." The baby stirred, opening her eyes for the first time. Johnson's chest swelled. After all the storms, after all the scars, he had found his anchor. But far away, in a quiet Abuja apartment, Amara sat alone, staring at old pictures on her phone, her whispers trembling with regret. "I had the world in my hands, and I threw it away." The morning sun in Abuja poured through thin curtains, but Amara sat in darkness. The room was quiet, except for the soft buzz of her old fan. She hadn't eaten since yesterday. The once confident woman who brushed past colleagues with a lifted chin now avoided mirrors, afraid of her own reflection. On her phone screen, the world mocked her. News clips replayed Johnson and Monica's wedding laughter, gold decorations, flashes of powerful guests. The comments were everywhere. "See the lucky doctor who won the silent billionaire's heart. This is what happens when you're genuine. Money comes last. Not every woman is greedy like the rest." Amara threw the phone across the bed. It hit the pillow and bounced. Tears rolled down her cheeks. She whispered to herself, "That should have been me." But deep down, she knew the truth. She had traded love for class, loyalty for greed, a husband for a stranger's car. At the office, her footsteps echoed down the hall, but nobody looked up. Where once her laughter filled the air, silence followed her like a shadow. A group of women whispered near the copier, their voices sharp knives. "That's her. The one who called her husband a driver. Yes-o. Imagine. The CEO himself. And she didn't even know. She lost the jackpot." Amara clenched her teeth, holding back tears. She sat at her desk, pretending to work, though the numbers on the screen blurred. Every corner reminded her of Johnson, his calm eyes, his quiet smile, the way he had carried bags at the mall as though love was enough. Now she understood. It was enough. But she had been blind. When she tried to approach David in the cafeteria, he recoiled like she was poison. "David, please, can we talk?" she begged, holding his sleeve. He shook her hand off. "Amara, respect yourself. Do you want to finish me? That man is my boss. The way you disgraced him, you think he will ever forget. I don't want trouble. Stay away from me." His voice was low but firm. The finality in it broke her heart. As David walked out, whispers grew louder. People stared openly now. She sat frozen, her food untouched, shame eating her from the inside. One Thursday morning, manager Andrew called a staff meeting. Everyone gathered, tense, wondering what news would drop. Andrew cleared his throat. From Lagos headquarters, CEO Johnson Anderson has approved a major promotion for Mr. David Obinna. Effective immediately, he will head new projects under Jontech's Global Partnership Program. Applause filled the room. David nodded, smiling tightly. But Andrew wasn't done. Also, Mr. Anderson has reviewed performance records. Staff are reminded personal conduct reflects the company's values. Loyalty and integrity are rewarded. Disrespect and arrogance are noticed. His eyes flicked toward Amara for a brief second. Everyone followed. The message was clear without naming her. Amara's face burned. She wished the floor would open and swallow her whole. Her breaking point. That evening, she walked home slowly, her heels scraping the ground. Abuja's streetlights flickered. A couple walked past, laughing, hands intertwined, and Amara's chest tightened. She reached her small rented apartment, opened the door, and collapsed on the floor. Her mind replayed the mall moment, the SUV door, the careless, "he's my driver," the betrayal she thought was clever. Now she saw Johnson's face in that instant. Not angry, not broken, just silent. "Why didn't I see it?" she cried. "Why didn't I value him?" She buried her face in her hands and wept. Meanwhile, in Lagos, Johnson sat in his study, Juliana asleep in Monica's arms in the next room. He looked at photos from the wedding, Monica's smile, the joy of family, the peace in his own face. But behind the peace, his mind wasn't idle. A silent billionaire still had enemies. Rivals eyed Jontech's dominance, investors whispered about hostile takeovers, and deep in his files, reports of fraud from an insider in Abuja crossed his desk. Johnson closed the laptop slowly. It wasn't over. Love he had found. But storms were still on the horizon. Back in Abuja, one Friday morning, Amara stood in the office hallway, head bowed, when her phone buzzed. A number she didn't know. She answered weakly. "Hello?" A man's voice came through, cold and sharp. "Amara, we know about you, about your mistake. If you want to save your job, you'll do exactly what we say." Her heart pounded. "Who is this?" The line cut, her hands trembled. For the first time, she realized her downfall wasn't just about lost love. It was about to drag her into something darker. In Lagos, Johnson held Juliana close and whispered, "I'll protect you, no matter what." In Abuja, Amara dropped her phone on the desk, sweat on her forehead, and whispered, "What have I gotten myself into now? 2 lives, 2 cities, both heading toward a storm neither could see clearly yet." The boardroom in Lagos was filled with tension. Johnson sat at the head of the long glass table, his fingers steepled, his eyes sharp. Around him, investors argued about missing funds, about whispers of betrayal inside Jontech's Abuja branch. "We traced the leak," manager Andrew finally said, sliding a file across the table. It started with Amara. Johnson opened the file. His heart did not race. It remained calm. Inside were emails Amara had unknowingly passed to outsiders, competitors fishing for information, promising her wealth and comfort. She hadn't known she was walking into a trap. She was desperate, Andrew added, but it endangered the company. Johnson closed the file slowly. "Call her to Lagos." 2 days later, Amara stood outside the Lagos headquarters, clutching her handbag with trembling fingers. She had lost weight, her eyes hollow. Entering the grand lobby was like stepping into another world. Colleagues whispered as she passed. The elevator opened to the top floor. Johnson waited inside the boardroom, Monica at his side, Juliana's picture framed on his desk. His presence filled the room without him raising his voice. "Sit," he said. Amara sank into the chair, tears already in her eyes. "Johnson, please. I made mistakes. I was foolish. I was blind. Give me one more chance." Johnson's gaze didn't waver. "You didn't just betray me, Amara. You betrayed yourself. And now, you almost betrayed the company." Her sobs shook the room. "I didn't mean it. I was lonely. I was jealous of her." Her eyes flicked toward Monica, whose calm expression carried no malice, only quiet strength. Johnson leaned forward. His voice was low, but each word struck like a hammer. "Love is not built on greed. Loyalty cannot be tested only when it's convenient. You failed both." Amara dropped to her knees, crawling closer. "Please, let me back in your life. I'll do anything." Johnson stood, his tall frame casting a long shadow across her. "No, Amara. My life has moved forward. My heart belongs to Monica. My future belongs to Juliana. You cannot rewrite the past." The security officer stepped forward, waiting for his signal. Johnson raised his hand. "No, she will not be sacked. She will work. Let her live with her choices." Amara froze, staring up at him. The mercy cut deeper than punishment. As she was led out, her tears fell freely. Outside, the world still bustled, but her world had collapsed. She whispered to herself, "I lost him forever." Inside, Johnson turned to Monica. She touched his arm gently. "You did the right thing. Mercy is louder than revenge." He exhaled, looking at Juliana's photo. "Then let's raise her in truth." For the first time in years, Johnson felt peace, not because he had won, but because he had finally let go. If you like this story, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel for more interesting stories.